Against the Ropes podcast.
Contra las cuerdas.
Against the Ropes podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. AtR podcast. Gio Garcia here alongside Christian Mosqueda. Back for another episode. A ton of action to talk about. February is going to be hot, Chris. It's winter, but it's going to be hot, man. We got a big fight coming up this Saturday. And, of course, we got to talk about what transpired last week as well. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, like you said, Joe, in February, this is just the appetizer, man. The fact that we had the monster last couple of days, and then a big fight on Saturday. Yeah, man, I'm excited for February. I know that's the month that we were looking at when we're looking at the 2025 calendar year. So let's get it going.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and begin with the monster Naoya Inoue. Of course, late replacement in Kim. We kind of knew how this would turn out. No surprise, really. We can't act surprised. But, it does it again. It didn't take him too long, Chris. What round was it? 4 rounds. Right around what we predicted, right? For Inoue. Yeah, this was more of a stay busy fight once we found out that Goodman dropped from the fight for the second time. They had to keep the show moving. They had already postponed it once. So, Naoya defeats Ye-Jun Kim, who was 21-2 coming into the fight. As I said, 4 rounds. Inoue remains undisputed. And we'll see what happens next, man. Of course, there's some interesting names out there still in his division. And, a lot of people want him to move up to 26 as well. So I think, he's going to get some big fights coming up. As I said, more of a stay busy fight, but, he did his thing, got another knockout, improves to 29-0, 26 KOs.
Yeah, like you said, Joe, it's expected. One of the toughest assignments in all of boxing is fighting a guy like Inoue. Again, this is like one of those journey athletes taking on Michael Jordan. It's up there, Gio. It's up there. He's one of the very best pound for pound, 1 or 2. Wherever you have him, he's definitely top 3. Again, we know that he's known for his punching power. I think this is the 10th knockout straight that he's gotten. So again, he's not just beating guys; he's taking them out. So again, props to Kim for lasting as long as he did. We did say 4 or 5 rounds. Again, he's getting a nice little bag. He made a good account of himself. He shows like he's a warrior, that he's going to step up to the very best, but in a ways in a league of his own. So again, 4th round knockout. We saw a little bit of entertainment. Him was, trying to taunt the monster, and the monster said, not today, man. Took him out, and that's all she wrote. Again, this is what we said. You know, we know that Inoue is always going to be in that fighter of the year contention, and step one is done.
All right. Who do we want to see next for Naoya Inoue, Chris? You were at the Joel Diaz camp last week. You know, there's some names over there. Who do you want to see Inoue next? You know, as I said, there's still some action at 122. And of course, everyone's kind of waiting for him to move up to 26 as well and see what he can do in a higher weight class. But who would you like to see for Naoya Inoue next?
But I have a little bias. Been around the Joel Diaz training camp and those boys. Before, I'm always very hesitant if these guys want to get in the ring with a guy like Inoue, with the pound for pound king, with the monster. And I'm gonna be honest. I thought these guys didn't want to smoke with Inoue, but I think they're understanding that even these great fighters, they have their limit, they have their size limit, and I would love to see him against MJ. I feel like a year and a half ago when he fought the Palas, I was like, I don't think he wants to smoke with a guy like Inoue. But I think MJ's got that hunger. He's got that thing that you want to prove it to yourself, to your team, to the world, to your people. And he's been asking for this fight. I've heard behind the scenes, that they've been calling for this fight for many years now. And I think it's gone to the point where they're upset. They know that it's a tough assignment, but I think they're a little upset that Inoue has kind of, I don't want to say sidestep. We saw that interview with Ramon. He wants to choose his words carefully as well. We don't want to say that he's been avoiding these guys because, come on, he's the man. He's the king at that division. He's been, running rampage through these divisions. So we're not going to say that he's fearful, but he hasn't taken this assignment yet. So I think MJ and company, they're upset now. They want, if not the fight, they want their bag because this is life-changing money. So that's a fight I want to see. I feel like it will be a very competitive fight. MJ's going to have the fight of his life, in my opinion. He's going up against the very best. But that's a fight that I think makes sense for both of these guys. What about you, Gio?
Yeah, I think, at this point, why not? Let's see. Let's go to some comments here. MAW says, MJ my preference, but Eddie's disrespect is ridiculous, shaking my head. He's tuning in from Australia. He said he's disappointed in Goodman 3 times. He says glad they had Kim on standby, to save the card, essentially. Shout out to Australia. Man, shout out to you guys. You guys have some good boxers out there at the moment, man. Shout out to Timmy Zhu. He'll be back. But yeah, I think, look, MJ 13-1. He only lost to Marlon Tapales, split decision. That kind of hurt him, man. That kind of set him back because it was almost a given that he would have fought Inoue if he would have had a belt. Lost by split decision, unfortunately for him. But he's been on a 2-fight win streak since then, and he just has to keep winning. Really for MJ, I think the opportunity will come. There has been a lot of talk back and forth, but it being the A side, of course, he's a shot caller. He's a moneymaker in Asia, so you can't really force him to fight anyone. He's gonna do what he does as the A side. But I think MJ is a good fight. We're gonna see Ramon Cardenas February 8th on a Pro Box card, so we'll see how he looks if he's fighting an undefeated fighter. If he's able to get through that test, he's gonna keep climbing the ranks. He's already in the I believe he's number 2 for the WBA, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's some interesting names, as I said, 122, and you would think that the bigger money fights are at 126. We'll take a look at who the champions are in that division, but anytime you climb up in these divisions, things start to get a little interesting. So I think that 126 is going to be inevitable for I think eventually he's going to move up.
Yeah, no, I also agree that MJ is the credible opponent for Inoue. Again, we know that Inoue comes from the small weight classes, but he's been assimilating, he's been adapting, he's been, walking through the divisions like he's been there for years. So, I think on the technical standpoint, a guy like MJ makes sense for him to test his abilities in these bigger weight divisions. But yeah, going back to the chat, dude, I agree with MAW. I think Eddie's doing the most. I think he's just respecting, but I think it's a combination of him doing his job and trying to bait an Inoue to come out and bite and sign the fight. At the same time, you can't be disrespectful to the pound king. Like, again, you don't want to, as we saw with Kim, you don't want to upset this guy. You want to, of course, you want to get your guy the fight. And that's job number one: sign the fight, get the fight. But man, you don't want to make that assignment harder for your guys. So if they're able to learn Inoue in, Gio, if I'm Eddie, that's where you go on respect mode, 100%. Again, you want to give your guy the best possible chance to win a fight like this one. Again, you cannot give a guy like Inoue any sort of advantages.
Yeah, and look, when we talk about respect and guys not getting fights, Benavidez is fighting this Saturday. That I feel like that's one guy who kind of ruined it for himself, him and his father, by doing a little too much talking. But we'll get into that. Big Bro says Inoue or Monster destroys like Mandaliev within 7. Woo! Iceman agrees.
Damn. Yeah, for me, for MJ, I think again MJ is a good fighter. He's very technically savvy. I think the only fights he's lost, on his own doing. The Tapales fight, that should have been a comfortable win in my opinion. Tapales is a good fighter, but I don't feel like he's at the level of an MJ. So again, I know it's a little bit of that bias, but MJ has to reverse the time, Gio. If he wants to stay competitive, if he wants to make it past these rounds that Big Bro say, he's got to reverse the time and bring back the fighter that we knew 7, 6, 5 years ago. Again, the technique's there, the hunger's there, but not sure if that money has changed them a little bit. Gio, we know what happens when these fighters make these kinds of figures. I don't think he's made that huge bag yet. That bag is going to come when he finally gets in the ring with an Inoue. But yeah, man, he definitely has to have a vintage performance to stay competitive with Inoue.
Yeah, and I like MJ, man. He's a very, very technical fighter. He just has that lone defeat to Tapales. As you said, he should have won that fight, but didn't happen for him. Now he kind of had to not get in the back of the line, but kind of like in the middle, like kind of restart. So I don't think they can really force Inoue into that fight, because as Iceman said, Inoue already defeated Tapales and he made it look easy. So I don't think it looks like a duck if you don't fight MJ, but I think it's still an interesting fight nonetheless. As we take a look at the champions, obviously 122, Naoya Inoue has all of them. If you look south of that division, 118 pounds, Junto Nakatani is at 118 pounds. He's the man there. If you go up one division from Inoue's 126, you have Angelo Leo, who I think is a very, very favorable fight. If Inoue were to want to collect the belt at 126, probably the easier route there. Nick Ball, I think another winnable, very, very winnable fight. Brandon Figueroa, who has kind of been elevated since Ray Vargas is the champion in recess for the WBC. And Rafael Espinosa, I think, who might be the toughest guy there. I mean, very tall, power, chin. But I think it can be all these guys. Honestly, if he were to go up there and try to collect all those belts, I think it's very, very doable.
Yeah, and we heard rumors that he wants to go after Nick Ball at the end of the year once he picks up some of the names at 122. Again, I agree with you, Gio. I think he needs to start to move a little bit. I don't want to say careful, but he's got to. You don't want to overreach, man. When it comes to these higher weight classes, of course, we saw that his name is plastered over at 122. But he did get dropped. He got dropped in one of his fights. That's where you start to see, that weight difference, that weight disparity. Yeah, those skills eventually will pay the bills, and you're going to come out on top, and and run through these guys. But everybody's got their limit, Gio. Even the great Canelo has his limits. We've seen fighters hit that ceiling, and so before you ascend, I think you got to start moving carefully. when it comes to these divisions. So I agree with you, Gio. I think you should take on and Angelo Leo. Leo still has a title around that time when that time comes. And yeah, man, I agree. I feel he can beat these guys on the skill level alone. But again, in boxing, one punch can change things. And he's been dropped, and some guys are going to be like, okay, that fear factor has gone down just a bit. If he can be dropped, I can hurt him. So yeah, man. Again, I'm excited for the next 4 or 5 fights that Inoue has because man, it's gonna be fireworks.
Yeah, and that's that really for Inoue. As I said, late replacement and Kim. Sam Goodman dropped dropped off a couple times, so dropped out, so didn't get the opportunity. Doesn't seem like he'll get it anytime soon. Seems like they've moved on. Inoue still fought. It was on a Friday morning here in the States, early, and he got an early KO. So undisputed, still one of the top pound for pound fighters in the world. Naoya Inoue did what he had to. He did what he had to, man. And another guy who I'd say did what he had to was Diego Pacheco, who also obtained a victory this past Saturday, Las Vegas, against Steven Nelson, who was undefeated, part of that Bomac camp. They did some talking in the lead up to it and the weigh-ins. Kind of got me a little more interested in the fight. I didn't know much about Steven Nelson. He was an undefeated fighter, 36 years old, a little older. They talked a lot, but at the end, Pacheco cruised to a unanimous decision. As I said, did what he had to. Didn't get the knockout, but he still has a pretty decent KO ratio, 18 KOs and 23 wins for the 23-year-old Diego Pacheco from South Central. Well represented South Central, and he continues to rack up these victories. Let's see who that opponent is who takes him to the next level. I think that's kind of what we're all waiting for.
Yeah, no, I agree, Gio. When it comes to these fights, obviously the mainstream fighter or the mainstream public doesn't know who Diego Pacheco is. The mainstream fan doesn't know who Nelson is, but some of the boxing fans know who obviously who Pacheco is, and then some of them know who Nelson is. But I think this is a great example, Gio, of that clever, funny, entertaining trash talking that can get you excited about an event. I'm in the same boat as you. I was like, okay, I want to see Pacheco. I want to see what he's got, but you have to have a dance partner. And if you don't have one, and you're not gonna, you probably will watch it on repeat. You'll watch it delayed. But seeing that snippet, that's comedy, man. That's entertainment. That's what the fans want to see. And that little snippet of Bomac just talking a little bit of smack gets people excited, man. Again, it doesn't have to be all, blasphemous, trash talk. It's just cleverness. It's funny. It gets people excited. You get a little reaction from Diego Pacheco, and it makes the fight just a little bit more exciting. But yeah, back to the fight. I would say it wasn't Diego Pacheco's best fight, but you could see again, Joe. You could see the tangibles. The long arms, the power, the height. You could see why he's a blue chip fighter, and he did what he needed to do in that fight to get the W. I scored it maybe 9-3, 8-4 in favor of Pacheco. Nelson, admirable fight, come forward fighter. People respect that. People love that. They'll pay to see him again. But yeah, Diego Pacheco at 23, man, it just you could tell that there's more to him. Not his best performance, but there's still room for him to grow and to improve, which is definitely scary for a 23-year-old.
Yeah, and I like the his partnership with Jose Benavidez, Daivd Benavidez' dad. I'm sure those guys motivated each other throughout camp, and I like how he's looking. As I said, and as you reiterated as well, you need a good dance partner, and in this case, Steven Nelson was a good opponent, but I mean, he didn't go for it for all the trash talk that they did. He never really went for it. The last time out against Suleski here in Carson at the War Grounds, Chris, Pacheco got a very good stoppage, that vicious body shot, so this time around he doesn't get it, gets a W, and I think it's just a matter of time that we see Pacheco against one of those contenders or guys up there, highly ranked at 168. Berlanga had some things to say. He said he's gonna get that boy a big payday and a big ass whooping. Berlanga said. Which is funny now, right? Because Berlanga's acting like he's the cash cow now after the Canelo fight. But those are interesting fights, man. I think 168, Caleb Plant is going to be in the mix. Edgar Berlanga is going to be in the mix. Jaime Munguia was in the mix. I think he's still a name. Theo Pacheco's there. So those guys can all fight each other, and I feel like make big money fights. But we'll see what happens next. Not sure Pacheco gets a big fight like that this year. I'm not sure how in a hurry Eddie Hearn will be to get him in there against a name like that.
Yeah, no, I again, he's 23. He's very young. I think you got to move him, as well, very carefully. A guy like Morrell, I think, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. I think he moved up too soon to get this fight with Benavidez. I think a guy like Pacheco, you can see that there's still a gap between him and the next level or the elite level. He's got some work to do, and he's got to do it back in the gym. And you got to move him up carefully with the right opponents to get to that level. But I would like to see him against the Caleb Plants Gio. I would like to see him against those right under the radar kind of fighters, the ones that've been tested, but they haven't crossed to that superstardom. But Pacheco's got some potential. Again, he still gets touched up here and there. He can work on some stuff on the defensive end. But yeah, again, as a 23-year-old, you got some time, you got some space. There's good names at 168. I feel like he's just right there at that 2 to 3 year frame where we're gonna see if he ascends or if he stays stagnant. Again, a guy like Jaime Munguia always had that promise, but they never fully convinced me. It feels like they were just below that level. We want to see if Diego Pacheco is able to surpass that level or not. But right now, it's promising. Again, not his best fight, but there's room to improve. There's things to be done. I want to see what he does in the next 2 to 3 years. Obviously, it comes down to opponent selection, the right opponents at the right time to get to that next level. But so far, so good. He's passed this test for the time being.
All right, Big Bro says Pacheco wasn't ready for the top guys at 168. Should look for the Bernalgas fight. MAW says Pacheco is very mature for a young man in there. Apparently, appeared very calm and chilled, like he was happy to coast at 12. Iceman says that was crazy knockout, and Munguia goes down. All right, so question: if Pacheco is not yet at that level of those top guys at 168, let's just ask this then. Right now, if the fight were to happen in 2-3 months, does he beat a guy like Jaime Munguia, who's coming off a loss and just got stopped against Ross? Crazy shocker to me. Biggest upset in the past 20 years. But does Pacheco have enough to beat a guy like Munguia at 168?
I think he could cruise to a decision. I think, again, like I said, I don't think Munguia is as good as he could have been. I think he's a good fighter. That one's a 50-50, 52-47 type of fight. If Diego Pacheco uses his reach, his height, and tries to cruise to a decision, I think he can get one. But it's gonna be tough against a veteran like Munguia. Let me pose you the same question. Do you think a Pacheco beats a guy like Caleb Plant now? Gio?
I think that will come down to styles. Caleb Plant, not the biggest puncher. Pacheco has very good power. Man, I'm gonna say no. As much as I like Pacheco, yeah, I think he needs a little more experience. I think a guy like Plant would be able to outbox him. And I'm not the biggest Caleb Plant fan, but I can just see him sticking and moving, and Pacheco not being able to figure that game plan out.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he's got the intangible to one day beat them. I just don't think he's got the experience yet. But yeah, I would love to see a Pacheco against I don't know if David Lemieux is still fighting. I'd like to see him against David Lemieux, maybe in Uzcategui, one of those people.
Man, leave Lemieux alone, man. Leave Lemieux alone, man. Let him retire in peace. Come on, man.
I'm trying to get him a last payday, man. Again, I don't know if he's still boxing. I don't know if he's still around. Maybe he's retired, but I'm just saying he's got to get those C+, B- kind of fighters, get that experience. Still 23. I would throw him to the dogs around 25, 26. But again, he does have a great style. He does have the height, the reach. So he could pose some problems to some guys. I just think just not yet.
All right, the chat seems to agree. No, Big Bro says Plant outboxes him. Munguia catches him like Nelson did. He hurts him too. Plant, the gatekeeper, says Adi. Iceman says no, Plant will get him. Ask Anthony Durrell if Plant doesn't have power. Yeah, that was the knockout of the year, I believe 2023. He needs to test. Big Bro says, stop it. A guy like him, Billy or Bernalgas, would be a good test, says Big Bro.
Yeah. Bernalgas. I agree. I think Bernalgas thinks he's the bet just because he got a payday with Canelo. That's a guy that I would favor Diego Pacheco over. I don't think but I don't think I'm saying it wrong now. I don't think Bernalgas is there, man. I think he's got exposed on the fundamentals in several fights. I think he gave a good account of himself against Canelo and showed a lot of heart, but never in that fight. So I would favor a Diego Pacheco over an Edgar Berlanga, but not over a Caleb Plant. And even not just yet against a Munguia.
No, I agree. And this is a fight that we've been talking about forever because if you guys remember, Top Rank ESPN was building up Berlanga, those first round KOs. And then on the other side, the zone, Eddie Hearn were building up Diego Pacheco. So you kind of knew at some point the paths were going to cross Puerto Rico, Mexico, two good young fighters. And I agree. I think Pacheco, I probably favor him over Bernal. Now I can't even say it, Chris. Berlanga, but I don't know if the other guy is. Big Bro throws out an interesting name, Trevor McCumbee, who gave Plant some troubles, dropped him a couple times. Maga McCumbee, Chris, what do you think about that?
That's a good one. That's a good little. That's always got that good territory. That's a good one. That's a good fight.
All right, what else do we have? MAW says Munguia and Plant have more experience, but at some point, young man has to step up. Selesky's stoppage was impressive, though. I agree. To stop Selesky the way he did was impressive, and at some point, he's going to have to get thrown in the deep end. So I think these are all good names to face. They're going to be big money fights, so hopefully they make it happen. Now let's go a little bit. Yeah, go ahead.
I think Selesky's the first thing that we're like, oh. You think you got that kind of skills already this soon? I think it's 21, 22. But we were like that's the first name that you're like, Tulesky is a known name. You sure you're ready for that, young man? And then he did that, and we're like, okay, respect. And I think before that, our boy Anthony Sims Jr., I think he told you like, watch out for that man. He's good. He's good.
Yeah, this was when he had about 3 to 4. I believe it was like 3 professional fights. Our guy Sims Jr. said, "Hey man, that young man over there, watch out for him. He's the next one." And if you look at here, Selesky, he only lost to Jacobs and he only lost to Demetrius Andrade before Diego Pacheco. So good experienced fighter. But I did want to touch on this undercard a little bit. Andy Cruz gets another W. The Cuban up and coming star, 5-0 now. 2 KOs for Andy Cruz, who made his pro debut in 2023. He won a unanimous decision. Ernesto Mercado, Tito Mercado stopped Pedraza. How many rounds was it? 4 rounds. He was my pick for prospect of last year, Tito Mercado, who is 17-0 now with 16 KOs, 23 years old out of Pomona, California. Y'all better pay attention to this man. We're trying to tell you. 17-0, 16 KOs, 23 years old. Tito Mercado. He stopped the veteran Pedraza, who's, 7 losses now, Chris. His third by stoppage. 3 losses in a row. Barboza, Keyshawn Davis, and Tito Mercado now. So, yeah, it's getting close to the end for Pedraza, 35 years old. But I did want to highlight that fight. Keep an eye out on Tito Mercado.
Yeah, Gio, I know you had a rough final stretch of 2024, but your boy Mercado making you look good. I told you before the podcast, he's making you look good. He's a promising young man, 23 years old, gets a stoppage. And, that's pretty much the narrative that I heard of this fight, Gio. Pedraza on the way out. That people are saying that's outside of Ryan Garcia. That's Tank's best win, and it's not aging too well. But yeah, man, again, shout out to your boy Mercado, 23 years old, another 23-year-old, just like Daivd Pacheco, just making it look easy, making a name for himself early on, and it looks like he's gonna want all the smoke with the big guys in his division, man. I'm excited to see his next fight.
Big Bro says Andy Cruz went up to his son Keyshawn after the fight and dapped him up. Keyshawn was not trying to engage with him. Yeah, and we've heard about the beef in the amateurs, right? Apparently Cruz defeated him I don't know how many times. And then he also says Mercado Carlos Shakur SMH is at 140. I believe he is at 40. But yeah, Tino Mercado wants the big names now. He kind of reminds me of our boy Murataya, Chris. They're gonna be there this year. They're gonna be knocking on those doors.
Yeah, Andy Cruz, he's just got that good style from the amateurs, and like you mentioned, he's got some good wins against Keyshawn Davis and those amateurs, and those losses, even though they're not pros, they stay with you. So, I mean, I'm not gonna knock Keyshawn. He don't want to show give that fist bump or shake hands. That's all right, man. That's a fighter mentality. But you saw that's why like the best B-roll I saw from that post. I just seen those three guys there. They're gonna have to see each other down the line. But yeah, man, I that's what I like about Shakur. He goes to these fights, man. All these fights that you see, Shakur is there, man. And I'm not sure if he's paying for these fights, but he's attending and he's making his presence felt. Can't wait to see him actually in the ring with these guys. But yeah, man, I like to see that interaction between top fighters, and Andy Cruz is right there again. We'll see how his style fully translates in the pro ranks against the top guys. But so far, he's doing what he needs to do to win. That fight was all him, and so again, he's a blue chip fighter as well. Can't wait to see him against the top guys, man. Again, he's gonna be on the fast track. He's been in the amateurs for a while, transitions now to the pros. So yeah, man, I can't wait to see him against the top opposition.
Yeah, and going back to 168, MAW says, why aren't these guys chasing Skull? A win over Skull gets belt, which equals leverage. Yeah, and Big Bro says it looks like Canelo might be facing Skull in May. But yeah, that's a good point. If you beat Skull, take a belt. Now you get to call out Go Nello, as they're calling him in the chat. So yeah, very, very good point there.
Yeah, a lot of people, I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't want to see Canelo versus the Skull just because a lot of people say, who's that guy? Never heard of him. We just want to see Canelo against same fighters, credible fighters with names on their resumes. But I agree with the other guys that need, a belt or need a what have you done for me lately kind of fight and make a statement. These other guys around him, Ron Canelo should be chasing a guy like Skull. It shouldn't be going, in my opinion, straight to a Canelo. People want to see names. People want to see the Benavidez's against the GOAT Nello of the sport. So yeah, man, all the other guys should be knocking at that door. I completely agree.
All right, and let's go ahead and move on because we do have some action at 75, one division higher. Of course, Daivd Benavidez, David Morrell. We got a good undercard as well. Let's begin with that, Chris. Let's begin with the undercard on that card this Saturday, Las Vegas. It is on pay-per-view, Prime Video. Chris, yes or no, real quick, are you gonna pay for this? I heard it was like $80. You paying for this card? All right, that's all I need.
I'll find a way to watch it, but
I don't think many people are gonna pay for this, but hey, they're trying. Look, they got Brandon Figueroa versus Stephen Fulton. The rematch, to me, I thought Figueroa won the first one. Stephen Fulton got the nod by the judges. They're running it back. I would say in different stages of their career, Fulton was stopped by Inoue. Struggled a little bit in his last fight as well. So we'll see what Fulton we get. Figueroa still Figueroa. I favor him in this fight, but we'll leave that for later, the official predictions. I think that's a good one to include in our predictions. We also got Isaac Cruz against Angel Fierro. Pitbull, Chris. Pitbull, Krillin Cruz, they don't want none of that Ryan smoke. That's your boy.
Hey, he's trying to be respectful to the opponent in front of him. He doesn't want to, see ahead. I get that. I would have still signed it. I would have still, insured the bag. But hey, he only knows why he does that. But he doesn't. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to overlook his opponent, man. I think that's his mindset.
Well, Pitbull, Krillin Cruz decided to go through with the Figueroa fight. They didn't want the payday, it seems like, and we'll see if he gets another chance at Ryan Garcia. But, we also have Jesus Alejandro Ramos versus Jason Rosario. I think good test for Ramos. He should be able to win this one against the veteran Jason Rosario. Ramos' only defeat was to Lubin. I thought he won that one as well. But we'll see. That's an interesting fight. That's a very interesting fight. So this, as I said, it's going down this Saturday, February 1st, Las Vegas, Amazon pay-per-view. And, of course, the headliner, Battle of the Daivds, Benavidez versus Morrell. Chris, let's start with Pitbull Cruz. What kind of Pitbull are we going to see? Do we get a knockout this time around? Last time, he got outboxed by El Rayo Valenzuela.
Yeah, I obviously don't know too much about Angel Fierro. I was looking at his box rec. I was looking at how many wins he has, how many losses. He's never been knocked out. He's got 2 losses. He's got some, respectable punching power. So, having said that, at first I was like, I don't think Pitbull's gonna get the knockout. He's just going through a moment right now where he's just not firing on all cylinders. But I think he's gonna summon something. I think we're gonna see the old Pitbull. I think we're gonna see somebody that knows that, hey, I'm not in people's favor. People like Gio here, they're not too convinced. So I think he needs a knockout. I think he's gonna push for it, and I think he gets it. Obviously the last one that we saw was against Rolly Romero, and that's the type of people that we're used to. So I envision him getting a knockout. I think he knows he needs it. I think he's gonna push this fight, and I see him getting it. Again, I think he's gonna struggle in the beginning, adjusting to his style, but I do see Pitbull Cruz getting a knockout against Angel Fierro.
Yeah, I agree with that. Fierro, 23 wins, 2 losses. He hasn't been stopped. He does have 18 KOs to his name. He won his last fight by TKO. That was in November of last year. And then his previous fight before that, he took an L in June of 2024. I agree. I think Pitbull should get a stoppage in this one. Pitbull Cruz, who is now 26-3, 18 KOs. How I feel about Pitbull Cruz. I feel like he's massively overrated. He already has 3 losses, but people love him, so he's gonna put people in seats. Not sure too many people will buy the pay-per-view for him to watch him fight, especially against a guy like Fierro. But he's a name. People love him, man. Look, when he fought on that undercard of Crawford and Madrimov, I went to one of the events over there at Venice Beach. He got the loudest cheers along with Andy Ruiz. Then there were some names on there, but Coley Anderson, obviously the headliner, people didn't even seem to care about those guys, Chris. As soon as Andy Ruiz and Pitbull Cruz came out, loudest cheers, and after that it was crickets. So, this guy, he has some pull. The fans do like him, and I believe that he should have taken that Ryan fight. But look, we're here. I think he does need a stoppage. As I said, he lost the last time out on a split. Man, they almost robbed my boy Rayo, man. That's crazy. A split. He got outboxed. To me, Rayo outbox. Outbox is an understatement. But anyway, before that Rolando Romero TKO. I know that put him in the radar of a lot of people as well. And the loss to Tank Davis, I think some of his notable fights, he got some losses earlier in his career. What was this? His 6th fight, he took a loss. But yeah, as I said, he should be able to get a stoppage here. The 26-year-old Isaac Krillin Cruz, Chris. I'm gonna call him Krillin. Let's see if he looks like a pit bull this weekend.
Yeah, no, all the events I've been to where Andy and Pitbull are at, Gio, even the ones years past, I'm always shocked how much love Pitbull gets. Again, he's the quintessential Mexican fighter. He's got the Mexican come forward style, go for broke, bombs away, tries to get knockouts as much as possible. You never see him try to box. That's just not him. And that's, reminiscent of the Julio Cesar Chavez days. Again, he's also very humble, doesn't speak English, only speaks Spanish. People relate to that. People appreciate that. I think of the Tito Trinidad word when Tito didn't want to learn English. He just wanted to be connected to the people, to the language, to the culture. So yeah, again, he's like you said, Joe, he's got a lot of gravitas when it comes to the Mexican public. So people are going to support him. And again, he's just one knockout away, one highlight away into getting people's good graces. Again, I think people forgive him for that fight against Rayo because, I didn't expect Rayo to box Gio. I think it was the perfect game plan by Robert and Co. and by Rayo, but I didn't expect that. If it was a toe-to-toe kind of fight, you best believe that Pitbull would have caught him. But again, Rayo fought an excellent fight. He's a champion now. We like Rayo. Rayo is that kind of fighter that gives the fight fans, the fight that they want. But this time for this fight against Pitbull, he's like, let me just take one for myself, and he did, and he's in the driver's seat. But I do believe Pitbull is going to bounce back just like Rayo did. I envision him doing it in this fight, and he's going to look on to bigger and better things, and hopefully we get a Vegeta Goku, man. We get a Ryan Garcia versus Pitbull Cruz, later on in 2025.
Let's go to some comments here. Let's see what the people are saying. Pitbull look great versus Rolly, says MAW, but limited versus Cabrera and Rayo. KO for Pitbull will put him back in the good books with the fans. Iceman agrees with him. Rayo school that little Chihuahua, says Big Bro. Iceman says, I give Robert some credit for the Pitbull fight for sure. Yeah, and I think that's what kind of put him over the hump in my list for Trainer of the Year. He only had Rayo for those eight weeks, Chris, and man, we saw a huge difference. So yeah, big ups to Robert Garcia. We'll see. We're both predicting a KO for Pitbull. Brandon Figueroa, Stephen Fulton, Chris. We got some comments on here as well. Fulton Figueroa rematch is a goodie, says MAW. I had Figueroa winning against Fulton, says Iceman, in the first fight, and Fulton didn't look good in his last fight. Big Bro says Fulton is beating Figueroa again. What do you think, Chris?
This one's a 50-50. Honestly, I feel like I haven't paid too much attention to Brandon. I always want to say, what's going on in their lives outside of the sport? Are they distracted? Are they locked in? I try to pay attention to those things, but I haven't seen too much of Figueroa. I want to say based off the skill level, they're both very competitive, both pretty up there. But I want to say Brandon. I want to say Fulton. I almost want to. I feel like that fight with Inoue maybe took some out of him. So with that kind of logic, might be wrong, but I'm gonna say Figueroa. I'm not convinced fully, but 52-47 for Brandon Figueroa. And I gotta think whether he gets a decision or knockout. But I think I'm gonna favor Brandon.
Well,
what about you?
You gotta say it. It's going in our predictions.
I'm gonna say decision Brandon Figueroa, but not fully convinced.
All right, Figueroa decision. Yeah, that was my prediction. Look, I didn't like how Fulton looked in his last fight either. I believe he went down. No, can you guys correct me if I'm wrong? He won a split decision versus Carlos Castro. This was in September of 2024. And of course, before that, he was stopped by Naoya Inoue. What round was that? 8 rounds. He won a majority against Brandon Figueroa. Yeah, this one, I think the first time out, Fulton he just fought probably a smarter fight than Figueroa. We know what Figueroa is going to do. He's going to come at you. He wants to fight on the inside, even though he is a little tall for his division. You can say he has the long arms, but who he is. And I think this time around, I think he has a little bit more left in the gas tank. Figueroa, 25-1, 19 KOs, 28 years old. How old is Stephen Fulton? 30. So they're right around the same age. Figueroa is coming off Jesse Magdaleno KO, win against Magsayo. Carlos Castro, he TKO'd him. And then he had that loss versus Fulton. But before that, the one that stands out was the KO over Nettie. If you remember that body punch that took Nettie out. I think Figueroa gets his revenge, and I think by decision as well. But styles make fights. I think in the first fight, Fulton was a little smarter. I still think he lost the fight, but very, very close. And I think Figueroa will make it a little more clear this time around. I didn't like how Fulton has looked in his last couple fights.
Yeah, Brandon has the momentum. Again, it just depends on what they've been doing outside the ring. Again, the momentum has to favor Brandon Figueroa. The chip on the shoulder has to favor Brandon, just because when you lose to somebody, you don't want that feeling again. And when it's that close, you're like, I'm gonna do a little bit extra, especially in those tight rounds where you have to kind of, you know, make distance in that round. So I see Brandon doing that. But again, it's gonna be a very competitive fight. Like the chat said, it's gonna be a goodie, man. Don't miss this one. This one's gonna be ultra competitive. So I can't wait for this fight on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good one. So it's official. We're going Pitbull KO. We're also going Figueroa decision. We agree on that. Let's see if we'll disagree on the main event, Chris. David Morrell coming into the fight 11-0, 9 KOs, 27 years old from Cuba. Not a ton of professional experience. If you look at his resume, not any, I'd say, recognizable names. He moved up to 75 in his last fight, won by unanimous decision. That was also on that undercard of Crawford and Madrimov. And you see the resume there. You probably won't recognize many names. But let's look at David's, Chris. It's not like we're going to recognize many names either. 29-0, 24 KOs, 28 years old. They're right around the same age, right around the same size. Benavidez also making the move to 75. Last fought Volstik in June of 2024. Why? I don't know, but he fought him. Demetrius Andre, decent opponent, stopped him. Caleb Plant, very good win, won by decision. David Lemieux, not sure why he fought him either, stopped him. And if you go down, not many recognizable names. I like the Romero Alexis Angulo win. Other than that, not much in that thin resume either for David Benavidez, but I think this is a good fight. I think this is a fight he should win. He's fighting a guy with only 11 pro fights. Benavidez has a lot more experience, I'd say, especially in championship fights. The rail fights, the fight against Angulo, even though he missed weight in that one. But he has more championship experience, and as I said, a fight he should win. But we've said this in the past. We don't know much about Morrell. There's not enough a big sample size to be able to say if this guy is the real deal or not. So I think that's what makes it interesting. Morrell coming in at the fight 11-0, 9 KOs. Not too much to do research from, but we'll see what happens on Saturday.
So you're going with Benavidez. Did you say by which way he's gonna win?
Yeah, I didn't even say anything, Chris.
I heard it sounded like you said Benavidez was gonna win. That's what I heard from.
Yeah, let's go to the poll, Chris. I have my mind made up. Let's refresh this. I just posted the poll before the podcast, so let's see how many votes we got so far. 55 votes. 71% are going Benavidez, 29 with Morrell. I picked Morrell on the poll just to mess with it, just to mess up the numbers, but yeah, I'm going Benavidez decision. As I said, I think this is a fight that he should win. He's fighting a relatively inexperienced fighter. Even though I think it will be competitive, I do think Benavidez will struggle in some of those rounds. I think Morrell can make it interesting, try to outbox him. He's a southpaw, strong guy. Let's see how well he can punch. As I said, we don't know much about him, just judging off the few fights that he has as a pro and not really quality fighters that he has fought. So, yeah, for that reason, I got to go with Benavidez.
Yeah, let me just say, when I first saw this fight announced, I was like, whoa, this is nuts. This is not a fight that you, as a fight fan, expect to get this quick, this early. Again, Morrell's a great fighter, Benavidez are great fighters, but the experience factor has to favor Benavidez. the youngest 168-pound champion in the history of boxing. That's gonna that garners respect on its own. Again, when I first saw Morrell fight, I was like, this guy's big, this guy's huge, he can fight. He's very promising. But as what I say with all promising fighters, I always say they have to go through the right avenues to fulfill their potential. And when you put these guys too soon, too quick with one of these guys like Benavidez, it can mess them up. It could ruin them per se. And I feel like that's what's going to happen, Gio. I think as talented as Morrell is, he just doesn't have the experience yet. He doesn't know how fast of Benavidez is with those arms and that power. So, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope this turns out to be a very competitive fight, and I hope it goes the distance. It goes, into the championship rounds, so we can see the best version of Morrell. But I don't see that happening unless Morrell really is as good as his team has hyped him up to be. So, with that said, I'm gonna say Benavidez gets a knockout, Gio. I think he gets a knockout. After the eighth, ninth round, I just think he's got too much. He's got too much speed, too much power, and I think he catches him. Again, if I'm wrong, and Morrell's able to shock him, that just shows how good Morrell is. But the experience factor has to favor Benavidez. The hunger is palpable on both sides, but man, something about Benavidez just tells me he's just a level above. So with that, Benavidez by knockout.
Dang. All right. Milton says Benavidez is going to kill him. Big Bro says Morrell by KO 9 or 8.
Wow.
Let's see. MAW says winner is deserving of 175 undisputed rematch winner. I don't think Benavidez will dominate in this one. Benavidez has been a weight bully for a long, long time. I think he's finally fighting a guy his size. When he fought Gvozdyk, who hadn't fought in 3-4 years, he couldn't stop him. So, yeah, I think he's going to struggle in this one, but I think he's going to pull it off. I don't think he gets a KO. And I think anything can happen. I think Morrell could win this fight too. But, I'm going with the safe pick. I've learned my lesson from last year. I took too many risks, too many haymakers, and none of them landed.
I'm throwing a haymaker today. I think this is a educated haymaker that I'm tossing out again. I see Benavidez losing the early rounds, Gio. When I see somebody that has a history of losing early rounds, the way he lost to Caleb Plant, obviously it's the style clash between a brawler against a boxer. When I think of Morrell, I think Cuban style amateur. This guy's he's gonna box very well the early rounds. I just feel like Benavidez is that kind of fighter that the wave gets bigger as this fight goes, and then the pressure starts to consume the boxer as kind of fighter. So I see that happening in the middle to late rounds. But again, this is like Big Bro says, man. Hey, Big Bro just giving that prediction. I'm like, damn, what does Big Bro know that I don't? Again, these are two big men, and boxing, anything can happen when the right punch lands. And if you have that boxing style, maybe he sets up traps and catches Benavidez. So again, this fight for Morrell, he's got so much to gain, and I think he's got the least to lose. If he loses, it's going to be on the physical side if he takes a beating towards the end. But on the stock side, his stock will rise if he's able to shock Benavidez come Saturday.
Oh yeah, Morrell's getting a Canelo fight if he wins. I think Canelo's that petty. I think Canelo's that petty. You will give him the fight if he beats Benavidez. But yeah, like I said, I think Morrell can definitely win. Let's just see if he's the real deal. I don't think we've seen it yet. I think we'll find out on Saturday. MAW says this is a 50-50 fight. Tough task for either. This might just turn out to be a classic. He says Iceman agrees 50-50 fight. Says Benavidez looks mad. Yeah, we'll see. He's fighting a guy his size. And like I said, look here. Alexander Gvozdyk. Gvozdyk hadn't fought 12 rounds since Arthur Beterbiev, since he got stopped. Well, actually, I'm sorry. That didn't even go 12 rounds. Since before that. So about 5-6 years, he hadn't fought 12 rounds. He went 12 with Benavidez. I think that's embarrassing. For a guy who retired for so long, Benavidez should have stopped him. Couldn't do it. So yeah, I don't think he's able to stop Morrell unless he catches him in the late rounds. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see if Morrell really is the real deal, or if, they had been building him up to be, against strategic opponents. We'll just have to wait and see, man.
Yeah, again, Gio, when I seen Morrell fight early on, obviously you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt because the competition's not there. But just his movements, they tell me that this he convinces me a little bit more than Diego Pacheco. He convinces me more than the Jaime Munguias when it comes to just the style and the way he picks his shots, shot selection, aggression, calculated aggression, entertainer outside of the ring. Again, he's like you said, he doesn't have a lot, for people to go by, but people when they hear the name Morrell, they're like, oh, this guy is he's the good. So again, we're gonna see how good he is when he takes this test against Benavidez. But I'm excited. If you're a boxing fan, you're excited for this one. The fact that Morrell says like, "Hey, I'm not gonna wait 2-3 years. I want it now." You gotta commend him for that. So again, it's a big assignment, tough assignment. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible, but it's not gonna be easy. So yeah, man, I'm excited for this one, and the fight fan wins for this fight for sure.
Well, there you have it. I think, we're not, I don't want to say split, but I think people will agree that this is going to be or should be a close fight. And we'll see. My end, I think I'm playing it safe, but I think anything can happen in this fight. I think Benavidez might pull it off with a little bit of his experience. Now, they're also talking about Jesus Ramos, which a fighter I really like, Chris. I think he got robbed against Lubin, and Champy says he's gonna whoop Rosario Ramos is, and he's gonna collect all the belts, take out all the champs. He says at 154. He also says crazy how PBC tried to ruin his career after that Lubin robbery. Yeah, and that was on the Canelo undercard, I believe, against Charlo. Very good, entertaining fight. I thought he won that one, but yeah, Ramos. I like Ramos. He's the real deal. He looks like he's 35, but he's young. He's young. He has a lot of years to go, and very very entertaining fighter. MAW says Morrell seems to have more one punch power, while Benavidez more of a volume. Drown outs. Yep, both maybe a bit slower than 168. We'll see. Yeah, I think that will make it more of a strategic match, more so than if they would have fought at 68. But yeah, very interesting fight, Chris. Were you going to say something on the topic of Ramos?
Yeah, my introduction to Ramos obviously was that I believe it was a Joey Spencer fight, and we've seen Joey Spencer. We're like, dude, he's a good fighter. I wouldn't say like, top fighter, but good fighter. And then when we saw what Ramos did to him, I was like, boy, where did this guy come from? Who is this guy? Big guy for 154. Probably should be a middleweight or super middle, but he's able to fit in that frame. Scary dude, scary power. I honestly felt like he kind of shot himself in the foot with that Lubin fight. That was a fight that I predicted. I was like, Lubin is gonna get knocked out, highlight reel. I feel like Ramos just didn't put the correct game plan for that one. And yeah, I agree. He got robbed. He wasn't the Ramos that we're used to seeing, but I feel like he did enough to win. Was robbed. He's been a little shelved, in my opinion. But no, he's a scary dude. Again, we've said that the 154-pound division is one of the best divisions right now. A lot of names, a lot of monsters, a lot of talented guys. I feel like if this is WWE, each one can have the belt every 2-3 months. It's that competitive. But yeah, I'm excited for 2025 and what the 154-pound division. Again, there's a lot of monsters. There's a lot of guys that are graduating from the 147 and making a name for themselves at 154. We have a great fight, later on February 22nd with another 154-pound matchup. Again, there's so many names there. Like, if anybody's gonna watch any division this year, it's that 154-pound division.
Yeah. MAW says, don't know why PBC favor Lubin so much. He seems to get a lot of opportunities, more than most. And I agree. Ramos beat Joey up. He may never be the same. Yeah, that was a little surprising, man. I remember that fight too. And Joey was supposed to be the next dude, and he couldn't take the punch, man. Couldn't take the punch. Um, All right, let's see what else we have. Let's go over the February schedule real quick, because besides this great card this weekend, February 14th, Valentine's Day in New York, ESPN Plus. Dennis Berenchik against Keyshawn Davis. Sandra Zayas is on there too. Tula Mason is on there too. Jared Anderson is on there too, making a comeback. Nico Ali Walsh is on there. Next day, February 15th, Oscar Duarte versus Regis Prograrius. Anaheim, California, DAZN. Same day, the other side of the pond, Manchester, England, Catterall, Barboza Jr., DAZN. That's an vacant. They're saying vacant WBO junior welterweight. Oh, that's the interim. Yeah, that's for an interim belt. And of course, the big card, February 22. Bunch of names, Chris. I don't even know if I want to read them all. Let's try it. Let's see how fast we can do this. Riyadh season, DAZN pay-per-view. Beterbiev, Vivo, Dubois, Parker, Adames, Shiraz, Ortiz, Madrimov, Buatsi, Smith, Stevenson, Schofield, Zhang, Kabaya. Fire.
Man,
That's what we got for February.
That's the main course, Gio. These are the appetizers, and we're gonna eat these appetizers up. But that's the main dish right there. And again, shout out to Turkey Alashri, just spoiling us as fight fans, and that's the one I will pay for, Gio. Whether it's a $30 price tag, $40, I'm gonna support boxing where boxing's blessing us. So obviously, we're gonna watch the fight with Benavidez and Morrell. We'll find a way to watch it, but man, we gotta bless the sport where they're doing the job right.
That's right, man. That's right. Lubin probably doesn't ask for a lot of money, says Iceman.
Damn.
All right. Well, hey, I think that's all we got. We're about an hour in. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for keeping the chat lit. We appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be back next week to break it all down. We got our official predictions down. We're going Pitbull KO. We're going Figueroa decision. And Chris is going Benavidez KO. Whereas I'm saying he'll win by decision. So we'll see how it goes this weekend. Should be a very good card. Once again, shout out to Naoya Inoue. I know he's watching. Shout out to Diego Pacheco. I know he's watching. Congrats to them on them dubs, and we'll see who can get some victories this Saturday, man. Once again, thank you guys for keeping that chat lit.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm throwing a haymaker early on, man. A calculated haymaker. Final question before we get out of here, Gio. I always say I try to predict the first upsets of the year, man. Do you think we see an upset in this card, or it doesn't happen this card?
On this card, oh, I think we'll get at least one. I'm kind of hoping we'll see one in the main event, but it's gonna be difficult. But I think Fierro can knock out Pitbull Cruz. I'm just joking, Chris. I'm just
Let's see.
no, and then
We'll be on the lookout for that upset, man. We'll see when it happens. The first big upset of the year. I don't think it happens this year. Could be wrong. Anything can happen in boxing, but I'm excited for Benavidez Morrell, man. Let's go.
yeah, I think I don't think Rosario will upset Ramos either. But we'll see. We'll see that main event. Hopefully it's a 50-50 fight. Hopefully it's a good one.
Again, thank you guys for giving us your predictions, your opinions. Again, we're nothing without you guys, but yeah, man, I'm excited for this fight. February is gonna be sizzling, man. Can't wait for that main course, but yeah, man, we're here for it. This Saturday, it's gonna be lit. Let's go.
Let's go. Big Bro says, yeah, Morrell, if you can call it an upset, and Fulton might be a slight upset too. Oh man, it's gonna be interesting, man. We'll see. We're keeping these receipts. We'll bring them back next week. But yeah, once again, thank you guys. Have a great night. Shout out to those who will be watching the replay as well. Tune in next week. Be back soon. Appreciate it. Let's go, mates.
Payday. Morrell's thinking payday. Let's go.
Payday. Let's go.
Hola amigos, soy Juan Francisco Gallo Estrada. Quiero mandar un saludo para mis amigos de Contra las Cuerdas. Échenle muchas ganas, un abrazo, muchas bendiciones.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. You know what mine is? Let's box, bitches. It's almost fight night.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you for the support. Keep doing your thing. You're doing a great job. So thank you and best wishes.
Against the Ropes. Huge shout out to Against the Ropes. Against the Ropes.
Shout out to Against the Ropes. Thank you guys for the interview and hope to see you guys soon.
Against the Ropes, always doing the right thing.
Shout out to Against the Ropes, man. I appreciate you guys for having me, taking the time on y'all day.
Against the Ropes, #1.
Freddie Roach.
Thank you very much.